I want to briefly go over how to do these questions or answer these questions for Project 3. And you were to collect data, and it says here to get information from your classmates, and if you're an online student, you don't have to. You can get those from anybody that you know. So you need two questions: quantitative, meaning that you're going to elicit a numeric response, or a number. People are going to respond, like how much do you spend on gas each week? They would say maybe $20 or $30 or $40 or something like that. And a qualitative question would elicit a non-numeric response, like, do you think professional sports are fixed? So their answer would be yes or no. And for this project, try to make it as simple as possible. Ask them a question where there's only two possible answers. Either they maybe agree or disagree or something like that. And these here, the next couple questions are the same as previous projects. The type of variable, and whether it's discrete or continuous, and what the levels of measurement are. Now you're going to take your quantitative data, excuse me, and put that into your calculator. If you go into L1 and type in all your data, and here what it says is it considered a large or small sample, and basically your answer here would be just that it does depend on what you're doing. So there's lots of different types of analyses in statistics, and it really depends on the type of analysis as whether we would consider it large or small. For number 5, the quantitative variable, your descriptive statistics would be things like the mean and the median, the sample size, and so on. So you get those from the 1-var stats on your calculator. For the qualitative question, you would simply have the number or your sample size, and then how many responses there were in favor of your question. For number 6, here it says find what percent of your data values fall within 1 standard deviation and then 2 standard deviations. So, for example, let's say that your mean was 100 and your standard deviation was 10. So you would take 100 minus 10 for your lower limit, and then you would take 100 plus 10 for your upper limit. So this would range from 90 up to 110. That's within 1 standard deviation. Now if you were going to go 2 standard deviations away from the mean, or 100, you'd subtract 20. And you would add 20. So your range would go from 80 up to 120, and that would give you all the values that would fall within 2 standard deviations, anything that fell within 80 up to 1. And again, remember that this all depends on what your standard or mean is in standard deviation. Now for number 7, to approximate the top and bottom 5% cutoff points, you could use the inverse norm function on your calculators. What that's asking you is that what value do you cut off that at for that percent. So if you type in for example, let's say we use inverse norm, and then you put in the area to the left. So if I want the bottom cutoff score, I'll put in 0.05, and then my mean, we'll use 100 again, and my standard deviation of 10. So you go into your calculator in the distribution, type this in. This will give you the bottom cutoff point. If you put in 0.95 here, you get the top cutoff point. For number 8, the standard error is your standard deviation divided by the square root of n. Degrees of freedom are simply n minus 1. Standardize your first score. That's x minus the mean over the standard deviation. And then for number 10, when it says select a point estimate, that's your sample value. So you're going to take your sample mean as your point estimate here, and your sample population proportion as your sample or your estimate there. Half the sample size, that formula is in your text.